Hi everyone. Hi everyone. This is Ayana and I'm here with Kat.
Hi, this is Gab, and welcome to the G&A Podcast brought to you by Cultural Vistas and YCD Seeds, Y-Loop Digital Solutions, and the U.S. Embassy in the Philippines.
So, Gab and I created this podcast because we always talk about friends doing inspiring work in their communities. We know there are many of them out there and needed a space to just talk about it. So, why not create a podcast to amplify their voices and maybe inspire more people?
Exactly. We want to be able to create a ripple effect of valuable conversations and provide a platform to connect with like minded people. And since we're both international exchange alumni of the U.S. Embassy Manila, we celebrate this community by bringing them together featuring different themes of their advocacies.
We are so excited to start this conversation. Please don't forget to subscribe to GNA Podcast. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, and Apple Music.
Welcome again to another webinar this Saturday. Thank you for spending your time again with us.
I have a new friend, and at first they were very serious people.
Magandang araw and mabuhay! Chairwoman Ayana.
Okay, hi everybody, good evening. Today we'll be talking about an interesting part of restoration, which is our umbrella topic for the entire Unified series, and that is our inner self. So, in most large systems today, we collectively create results that no one wants. But what's keeping us stuck in such patterns of the past? It is our blind spots. That is our lack of awareness of the inner places from which our attention and intention originates. By moving through Sharma's U process, we consciously access the blind spots and learn to connect with our authentic selves, the deepest source of knowledge and inspiration. We also take inquiry into the meditation space and self reflections in assessing our current state and how we can rev up ourselves to restore us back to our core. But before anything else, we have two special guests joining us today. They're going to share their expertise on these topics, talk about the impact of their initiatives, and share some best practices with our audiences. So the first guest that we're bringing into the stage is my project partner in YCD Seeds 2019. He is the product director of Bayani Pay and entrepreneur in residence of Talino Venture Labs. Mark has worked on a lot of digital projects, being an alumnus at the YCD and lead instructor for web development in Developers Connect Philippines. Let's all welcome to the stage the project secretary of Break to Fake Hackathon 2019, which is our project, Mark Colentava. Hello.
Hello, Gab. Hello, Ayana. Thank you for having me tonight.
Okay, so welcome, Mark, to this episode. The second guest that we're bringing in is a publicist, community development advocate, training and event specialist, and researcher writer. She is passionate about peace and conflict studies, child learning and development pedagogy, indigenous cultures, mindful living, spirituality, and metaphysics. Miss Brillantes is a political science graduate of UP Visayas. She is also an alumna of Asia Resource Foundation and YCLE. Professionally, she takes on lead on several organizations as the co-founder of Saving Innocent Lives Amidst War, or SILAW, founding board member of Batiti Ground Incorporated, and as an interim chair of U.S. Government Program Alumni Association in Panay and Guimaras. She also volunteers to organizations such as Coding Girls, WordPress Iloilo, Amnesty International, and UN Major Group for Children and the Youth, among many other accomplishments and impact that she has done over the past few years. Let's all welcome to the stage one of my close friends as well in the YCL community, Jarrah Brillantes.
Hello. Hello, Ayana. Hello, Gab. Hello, Mark.
Hello.
Yay!
Hello.
Welcome and Happy New Year, everyone!
Happy New Year.
Confetti,
Happy New Year.
confetti, confetti. I am so excited for today's topic. I feel that it's so timely as we welcome 2022. Talking about inner self and all the amazing initiatives that you've been doing. So I feel so refreshed. I'm based in New York, so it's 7:20 in the morning right now. Maayong buntag. Good morning to you. You're a day early for me. So nasa future kayo right now of the new year.
Oh. Hello from the future.
Right. Any Wait, before we start, I mean we really start with the, specific nitty-gritty. Not di naman nitty-gritty, but what's one resolution that you have sa 2022? Pang icebreaker lang.
Ayan.
Wow. Sino ba-
Sin- Sino ba may ano dyan? May mga just one major para naman may accountability tayo. At least by the year ends, pwede niyong balikan. Pwede niyong balikan ang podcast and to like really check in. Wait, parang may nasabi akong resolution for this year.
Yeah, yeah.
Who wants to share? Who wants to start?
Yeah, I think I can go first ako.
Go.
Yeah.
Okay, so, well, on top of the many things I want to change is that I'd like to make sure that every start of the day, I'll have time to be with myself. Ayun. So, that's it. So, I think I want to start a day that I'm fully collected so that I will be the best version of myself for the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yun
Great.
lang.
I like that.
Maganda
I
yan.
really like that. Siguro I have to do that too. Parang,
Yes,
okay,
yes.
sige nga ako.
Kailangan.
Pwede bang copy
Oo.
paste?
Oo, sige.
Baka si Mark, gusto ko na i-copy paste. Ano yung sa'yo?
Yeah. Sa akin naman, I have a longer list, so I actually have this
Wow.
notebook. Nilista ko yung marami yan nakalagay.
Hindi siya
pero at the
handa.
top, hindi ako handa eh. Pero di ko mabasahin lahat. At the
Wow.
top of it, baka di tayo matapos eh. Pero at the top of it, ang inilagay ko dyan is to make sure na whatever I'm doing, I set my intention. No? So, kasi for the last couple of years, lalo na nagka-pandemic, parang we're not in control. We're just reacting kung ano yung nangyayari sa atin. And then sometimes, doon na pumapasok yung ating mental well-being and then yung mga challenges natin, di ba? Na nakakalimutan. Nagre-react kasi we don't think na we're in control. So for me, I think for this year, whatever I do, I set my intention first. And then make sure na yun yung aking isipin always as I do my work or I do my projects. Yeah.
So one thing we learned from Mark already, we haven't even launched like the topic just yet, pero
Hindi pa
meron
ba?
po siyang mga takeaways, di ba? One, be intentional, right? Number two, dapat you have to also take notes. So take down notes. Marami tayong mapupulot sa ating pambato sa YCD. Okay.
Opening pa lang yan.
Yes, definitely. Now, let's talk about more on meditation later, no, and mental well-being, mental wellness, and of course, Mark already talked about the idea of us talking about our mental wellness more at this time of the pandemic, especially because it's a really very relevant thing to talk about. But before that, let's talk about YCD seeds muna. Kasi this is one interesting area which basically allowed us to gather here tonight. We actually invited some of our folks from the YCD seeds. So Jarrah Brillantes and Mark Colentava were actually recipients of YCD seeds grants from the Cultural Vistas and the US government. So the question to actually answer here is, what is your YCD Seeds project about? Would you mind telling our audience what was the impact so far and what basically pushed you to do that project? Let's start with Jara Muna.
Uh, all right. So, um, I said this many times to a lot of people. So I joined the whole network of YCLE through the YCLE Seeds for the Future in 2015. So it's actually my entry point to the network. So why I teach was the project that we proposed in 2015, and it's really about bringing education, quality education, into remote communities, regardless if there's a teacher, regardless if there's internet or if there's electricity. Um, and right now, through what it's almost 7 years right now. So I think the best thing after the project is that our pilot program was actually implemented in grade 6 students. So we're talking about a community without internet, without toilet, without electricity. So we put them into a specific program for a very closed door program for 5 months, and usually these kids, they don't go to college, they don't even go to high school. So there's a lot, the drop off rate is really high. But after the program, we're glad to see that 100% of the kids were they're interested to go to school. And then um well, we have 14 students, at least three of them went to college, and one graduated in college and now has work. So I think that's the most um, amazing milestone that we have achieved through the YCL Seeds for the Future. We were able to assure and look into for the last few years that it's possible for these kids who doesn't really think there's anything else for them. Through the program, we were able to make it happen. So thank you, YCL Seeds for the Future. And then through time, I became a mentor to other YCL Seeds program projects, and I am still actually working closely as a volunteer and a mentor to one existing and ongoing project for Trail X Life Goals. This is an existing and ongoing YCL Seeds for the Future program.
Okay, that's a lot to share, no, for coming from Jara, especially that Jara has actually run a couple of projects under YCD Seeds. So she really has a lot to share about how YCD Seeds make a lot of dreams into a reality, especially sending kids, for example, to schools and things like that. So we can really see the impact of the work and the grassroots level. So thank you so much for that. But what I also would want to highlight, no, before anything else, aside from the impact of YCD Seeds, I love that YCD has this magic of bringing people together, like-minded people together. And to be fair, that's also where I met Jara. We saw each other in Indonesia when I was doing the YCD Seeds and she was doing the Theory U. Um, and of course, I worked with Mark on a YCD Seeds project. So that I guess is one of the biggest beauty of the YCD community and the YCD Seeds projects as well. We're not just able to run projects; we actually get to develop working relationships and professional relationships with our comrades here who have the same passion for the advocacies that we really are supporting. So I guess it's a really great community to be in. How about you, Mark? Can you share to us the YCD Seeds project that you were in? Were you even happy to begin with to even be
Yes.
involved in this project? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, share to us about the Break the Fake the Hackathon.
All right, sure. Gab and I, and the rest of the proponent of the project worked for this break the fake hackathon. Also, the background of that is that's back in 2019. We've seen a lot of challenges when it comes to the rampant sharing of fake news. And sometimes medyo minimal yung impact, pero most of the time it's really become catastrophic, especially if there's a lot of people who are sharing fake news over and over again, and then people starts to believe that that's the reality. With the social challenges and then the election back then, that's really like a challenge that we're all facing. And then Gab approached me, and then we can at that point start thinking about the solution and start implementing it. Pero we thought of a better way to take advantage of the community and collectively solve this challenge through a hackathon. That's why we call for application and then for the developer community to participate in the hackathon, to collectively think and then combine all of our perspective and our understanding of the problem, and then try to use our understanding of technology as well on how to solve that. And that's the break the fake hackathon. So we call, or all the developers that we can call participate and break the fake hackathons from multiple countries across Southeast Asia. Think about this problem and let's solve it together, and let's present our challenges and then solution to one another. Some people win that competition, but the most important thing is that we share the solution like online and then to other people so that they can replicate the solutions on how we can solve the spread of fake news. And I think we're very much proud that some of them continue the project and then make a relevant impact, especially during the pandemic. Na there's also like sharing of fake news. So that's the project that we come up with. And then YCLC is, of course, very much helpful. We will not be meeting all of these amazing people across Southeast Asia and then be able to invite them to participate in Break the Fake hackathon if not for the YCL network. And then I think YCL also open us up with the possibility around the like unlocking the network. That's why we also opt to do the hackathon instead of just coming up with one single solution and then spreading it all all across. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do actually remember a lot of you know, when we were traveling in Indonesia and Malaysia, um, I do remember all the struggles, the pain of organizing events. But then at the end of the day, you just have that kind of happiness, of course, the satisfaction that it's finally done. But of course, you look at the results, you look at the community that you were able to produce, and that's just really very satisfying, I would say. Another thing I would like to say is Mark was right, especially at this time of the pandemic. We tend to trivialize the issue of fake news, you know, like it's just like people consume fake news and things like that. It never is going to magnify into bigger things like going to affect people's lives. But it's totally the opposite. The truth is that fake news has never been this weaponized as ever before, and it's really, really very powerful. And I guess what I really love about leveraging technology and community is we not only make sure that we come up with targeted solutions that responds to the rise of these technologies like AI and um, of course, all the deep fake technologies. But at the same time, we bring people together because there's power in volume. So I guess that's what I really particularly love about Break the Fake movement. And of course, the community, like what Mark said, we leverage the community of Papua New Guinea's APEC App Challenge, which is also where I and Mark competed in Papua way back in 2018. So that was also really a very fun part of our history of working together.
Yeah.
O, 'di ba?
Yeah.
Parang ano, what I like about YCL is just it's a big networking like group. So if this is the most possible when I hear about networking, most people would say, "Ay, ano ba 'yan?" 'Di ba? But like when I'm part of this community, networking is such a positive feeling that I am always proud of. And then when Mark mentioned, when Gab approached me, ko, ay, ito na yung networking part. um, And so, like, just hearing your the wonderful initiative, and I think it's really about time to really amplify what YCL is and what YCL Seeds is all about. And with that, I'm really curious. There's just two things. What's the most exciting part of doing the project, and what was the most challenging as well? Because it has to be, there has to be that some aspect of doing, your project. And if you could highlight among all of the challenges and the most exciting part, what could it be? Charot, parang ano, memorabilia.
Jara?
I can go first. Yeah.
Go for it.
Siguro, pinaka amazing siguro about the project is that yun nga um it's bigger than who I am. Siguro it's I will share that kind of feeling with everybody else who work in the community, that you cannot really dissect, explain, or justify whatever you've done. It's a long philosophical concept of charity, but then yun nga when we go out there and give ourselves, I think it's bigger than who we are. I think that's the most amazing thing about the project. It's no longer about yung uy ako yung implement no na actually I don't really like doing that, but then just looking at the impact, I'm really glad. I would like to say thank you to YCL Seeds. At the time, it was implemented by another organization. It you enable young organization like our nonprofit group Silaw to have access to funds and other resources and network in order to have deeper impacts on the community. Because kung ikaw kasi pag young organization ka, you don't really have that much. But then 5 years ago, 2015, it all happened. And then 7 years after that, projects don't stop. Everything's keep on going. We don't have money. Money and is not even an issue with our organization. But because of YCL Seeds, we were able to get that kind of credibility that we could make a project, we could make it happen, and we could actually make a change. I remember one mentor from Rotary Foundation. He mentioned that the YCL project is just the first step. It will help you build a network that will carry on the organization. Because 2015, many years ago, our problem was as a young organization, just few college graduates. Our question is that are we really making a difference? So that's 7 years ago. So after that, after all these many things that happened, we got that kind of attention and support because of YCL Seeds. To be honest, and of course, I guess the most challenging part about the project is actually our project is being implemented in a conflict affected area. So we have to handle this kind of problems that about being red tagged, about how to implement the project as per timeline, the project management side of it, while you handle the real face to face problems in the community. I think that's very challenging. It's it's hard to fit in the programmatic things that we write on our proposal into what's happening in real life. So we all know that's the most challenging part.
I agree. When you talk about also going back when you mentioned yung credibility part, it's really important. Kasi, di ba, you're given, and I love that money is not a problem. Naman.
Mm. Yes.
Di ba? So, and yeah, it's really
Tama ba
that.
yung
Like,
rinig ko na it's not a problem daw?
Yeah, it's not a problem anymore with our organization. I'd like to call in if I could with my org mates. Maliban sa part, now we have become professionals ourselves. The money has not become a problem because we have that kind of integrity already with our partners, that whatever we do, there's really something's gonna happen.
yeah, yeah, that's true. Like, for example, one project does not stop. So it's either magsisynergize siya to some other organization, or another funder is interested to expand the project. So it's a full cycle, di ba? Like, parang on your end, hindi naman you question when will it stop, but like, how far can we stretch it, and you're so amazed na parang you're reaching that far enough. And that's one thing that I really appreciate. And because of that, that's also something that would prove your credibility. Kasi nga, the more you have funding, the more you say that money is not a problem, that means you have built up so much credibility that funders, organization have so much trust in you to implement a certain project, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
believe I remember yung experience ko before, parang there's a hint of parang takot in the first place na, will the community believe me? Sino ba ako? Like, I started off in my undergrad years, so parang, and at 18-year-old, 19, 20, those times, so parang, you speak out dito sa, in the community, you face fishermen, like fisher folks, far-flung areas, high conflict areas, na, sino ba itong nagsasalita sa harap ko? Like, will they even believe me? But because you're back up with organizations, with YCLI as well, and that's attached to the embassy, and like in this big scope of the program, so that means parang it adds to your confidence and your professional experience. So I would say it's a really like holistic approach. So even if you have these challenges, yung your challenges magiging ano siya, it's one part of as like your strength in the long run. Kaya I would say minimal yung parang very iyakan challenge in a way, but it's always a learning process. Si Mark agree na. I'm so curious to hear
Yeah.
about you too.
Sige, sige. Let's start with with the fun part. I think the fun part is that since the Break the Fake hackathon is really designed to empower other developers to build their solution. I think the fun part is yung para kang proud parents when you see the yung mga winners and then yung mga participants building their own project kahit yung related sa Break the Fake, and then continuing the project, as well as kapag some of them nag-start sa Break the Fake and then nakahanap ng lakas ng loob to start other projects, and then nakita mo yung mga projects na yon really making an impact. I think that's the fun part. Hindi siya diretso sa amin, pero nakikita natin na yung impact na nagagawa natin sa community ay nandyan. Maliit man o malaki yung impact or yung project na nabubuo nila. I think that's really siguro fun and then proud moment yan sa mga proponents ng project. Pagdating naman sa challenging part ng program, ito pinag-usapan namin ni Gab. Sino bang nakiisip to conduct the hackathon all across Southeast Asia? And then so that's really the challenging part. And then I think we decided na yung finals will be in the Philippines. So we need to bring yung mga winners from multiple locations and countries to the Philippines, host them for a few days, and then conduct yung finals here. And I think that's challenging. Number one is that sa mga nag-iisip magawa ng project, number one is because of the logistics. So the logistics needed for us to make that happen, that's really challenging. Second is that, of course, that will have its own challenges when it comes to finances. So we need to make sure that it's within our budget. And then lastly, I think is that since si Gabsa ako, pareho kaming Filipino, there's also like a challenge of making yung Filipinos proud. Nadadali natin yung mga other participants in the Philippines, and then pagmamayabang natin yung mga pagkain natin dito, yung mga malulutong na crispy pata, di ba? And then ililibot natin sila around the area. I think that's challenging and fun as well. Pero that's part of the component because of YCLI being a multicultural and then, di ba, focus in Southeast Asia na community and network. Those are, of course, pag nagawa tayo ng project, those are expected to be challenging, fun, na part of the project as well.
I
That's
do agree,
definitely
no?
true.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ayana.
Yeah, so I would just like to pick up one thing, yung proud moment gap. Like, I can always imagine that at some point. Sa lahat ng projects, like, of course, you have your participants,
Uh-huh,
and then they
uh-huh.
become alums na rin, di ba? So parang,
Yes.
oh. That's like one of the greatest feeling I look forward every time natatapos yung project, because you see like these are real graduates na parang, oh my god, ito
Mhm,
yung
mhm.
pinaghirapan naming, like for example, we do like the module writing, we conduct the project ideation aspect of it, and they all learn from it. And then after that, yung like alam mo yung one thing I can't forget is yung nagpe-print your team will start printing yung certificate. Di parang naaamoy
Uh-huh,
nyo yun.
uh-huh.
Like, you slowly start to imagine the closing ceremony. Not just closing the program, but actually imagining the part na, oh my God, natapos na. But at the end of the day, we also have, at least at some point, lives change. Or not claiming that you really changed, but you've
Mhm.
shared that simple like part of you sharing ideas or sharing the initiative to them, and then they become like extended part of yourself because you've shared a part
Mhm.
of them as well, right, Gab?
I couldn't agree more, no, lalo na sa proud parent na part. One thing I can really say, Mark is really very hands-on with, especially when the Indonesians, the Malaysian comrades that we have, all came here, the winners of the hackathon. He was so accommodating. He toured them around Intramuros, made them try Jollibee and things like that. So he was really very hands-on to it. Like sometimes I would say, chill down, like
Yeah.
um, it was so up to the game, but it's also very exciting, and I love that part of us, just being able to do. And of course, there's that separation anxiety of because we get invested into the project. To be honest, after the project, we feel like. Okay, what am I gonna do now? Like the
Mhm.
1 year project is over. That's actually how I feel. Like once the YCD seeds, the break to fake hackathon was over, there's a separation anxiety because you were so invested with it. You are invested into making sure that it is successful. You still get to talk to the previous participants. They still touch base with you on the progress of the apps that they were developing and things like that. And of course, I agree with Jarrah as well. When she was talking about the ano no the challenges, and I'm very happy no na money is not a challenge anymore right now, especially with Jara's organization. So that's a very good thing. I would say the first thing you will have to really make sure, especially in running a project, is make sure that it is successful first, right? Like, you get to make sure that you establish the trust, the credibility, so that you can continue that ripple effect of more funders trusting you. So that's really also a very big thing. It starts like a group project, more like an academic activity. People are just having fun, but then you have to start thinking what's going to happen after. Are you just going to throw the project after, or are you going to sustain it? Which leads me to the question, and this is a question whoever would want to start. Um, how are your projects right now? If it's not, if is it still running? Is it not running anymore? And if it's not running anymore, what do you think is the appropriate next step in that particular advocacy? What's the right next thing that we should do as youth leaders, or maybe not us, but maybe the government, maybe any other stakeholder, to continue that kind of advocacy? Let's start with Jara.
All right. So, I'm proud to say that whatever we have proposed in 2015, we have replicated it. So I think that's in project management, 'di ba? I think that's the greatest milestone we can do. That whatever impact that we have created in one community can be brought to other communities. So that's I think doon ako super proud. In 2015, isang community lang yon. It's just 14, 15 kids. Now, we brought the same material, the same module, the same learning materials into this another community. And we're going to ship our materials and our this toolkit to our YCL friends in Mindoro, to Kuya Shernan, kay Shernan, and sa Zamboanga with our alumni group as well there. I think that's the most amazing thing about the project is that you nga at first you were able to solidify it. Just don't get me wrong, wala po kaming milyones sa account namin, wala po kaming pera. pero pero what I'm
It's
trying to
good
say
that you clarified.
yes, wala po kaming pera. What I'm trying to say is that whenever there is as a small organization because medyo we're just small bunch of a small organization. So we believe that if we grow so much, we'll have high operations cost. So we want to make sure that we're just small and pure, parang ganun lang na organization. So with whatever we've done in 2015, all the problems then is still out there. So I think we became relevant once again. To give you a backtrack, 2015 I Teach project was actually inspired by Yolanda. In 2013, it badly hit our adopted community, a community, a barangay that we have been helping since um, 2008, 2009. So in 2013, Yolanda hit our island and yung mga bagets namin doon, wala silang teacher for like almost 6 months. Matagal because the teachers themselves, they're also victims of the typhoon. So we wanted to respond to this. So through the project, we were able to put a toolkit for children who can learn remotely. So Taran module. So here comes 2020. It happens all over again. Everybody's divided. We have to isolate. Teachers cannot go to communities once again. Um, we opened our old toolkit in my computer and populated it. We donated, we printed out. Even before, to be honest, let me super proud ko, hindi pa nakakagawa ang DepEd ng module. May module na po kami.
Oh,
Kasi in 20
diba?
yes, it's because of Voicely Seeds po. Ganun.
Oh,
Oo.
wow.
Yes, because the problem is still out there. Yun yeah. And what we can right now, 7 years after, Philippines is still a third world, still severely remote because of our islands, because of our mountains. Whatever we've been doing is still relevant, even if 7 years na siya. So I'm glad that through that program, we could all just control print and send it to the community that needs it because kasi our organization believes that education cannot wait even if there's a calamity, even if there's conflict. Children needs to continue their learning because it's their only way to have an opportunity in life, just like all of us.
I love it. 'Di ba? Parang like it struck me the most. Nauna na silang Jara bago pa
Mm-mm.
the health crisis started. They have remote learning. They're ready and equipped to do
Mm-mm.
that. And if we only completed the effort, siguro we reach more in that aspect. Na I remember like shortly before I left the Philippines, I have a nephew na parang they felt like it's a super long vacation na parang being at home, naisip ko din, kailangan may gawin to. So literally printed random things na educational stuff that I see online. And sabi ko, okay, no computer, no TV, you have to do this. And that's like the start of our own initiatives that we started. Have I known Jara has it? Share naman dyan, girl. Like we could have replicated it in such a way to raise our own like funds on how we can share it within our community. So that's how important we do, little small efforts in the beginning, and then the few years you realize, okay, ito na pa, nagawa na namin to. It's not new for us. It's just something that we have to improvise maybe at some point. Um, to better it, and then in the long run we can share it. One aspect that she mentioned is a project, that a project is good if it can be replicated. That's one thing that I also
Mm-mm.
learned. Hindi siya exclusive to your area only. It's something that people like a suitcase, pwede mo siyang dalhin wherever you go, and it's like something that people can replicate, and that's one thing that your project's really good. And so I love that. ano ano pala sila, Chara, with this initiative. How about you, Mark? Anything to share with the project right
Yeah,
now?
sure. So I'll give all the credit to Gab for making sure that the project for Break the Fake is scalable and repeatable in a certain way. First is that Break the Fake, Gab ensures that it is an organization, and there's a lot of people looking around that with a common goal of using technology to eliminate fake news, and that's a common goal. Whatever practice it is, break the fake is around that. And then Gab just recently made this project around is that the video competition, Gab? So that's also around break the fake, using the same set of technologies and tools to eliminate the fake news. Gab, you want to add anything?
Yeah, so bigla ako naging ano no, interviewee dito.
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure. Feel free.
Okay. I guess it depends on the needs of the community, no. And I'm just really very happy na whatever we started in Break the Fake with like YCD Seeds, it's not about pleasing your donor or your whoever
Mm-hmm.
gave you the money. It's really about looking into what was needed by the community, and we're just really very grateful that as a movement in Break the Fake, we're very supported. So we have a lot of support not just from the US Embassy, but now we have an upcoming grant from the Australian government as well. So that's also really big. And this is also in response to the rising disinformation at the time of the pandemic. And of course, with the looming elections that's going to happen mid 2022, we also really have to make sure that we are able to create targeted campaigns that at least somehow mitigate the harmful effects of this disinformation and misinformation. O, di ba? Bigla akong naging
Mm-hmm.
ano. Well, back to you,
Yeah.
Mark.
And then
Just,
sige, idadagdag ko lang what's good with the break the fake is that because it's really initially focused on social media and then information. Again, I'll give the credit to Gab to making sure that we document everything that we're doing. And then that we are sharing the documentations and the projects to the communities out there. Speaking of making it repeatable and making it like replicable, I think that's a one component into it. Whatever you're doing, you can share it to the world. And then because we're not afraid that someone else will do it, actually we'll be more than happy if someone else will do it based on what we're sharing. uh, and I think that's the important component of the break the fake project, because it's really about doing this project and then sharing it all across the globe. Taking the quote of Ate Jara, talagang exciting yung parang yung project mo. If you want to share it with someone, you just click Control P or you just click share. Ganun na tayo ka-digital ngayon. And then someone else can do it. And then with that simple clicks, pwede na magawa ni Ayane yan, pwede na magawa ng cousins niya yan, pwede na magawa ng nephew niya yan, di ba? Marami nang makakagawa niyan by just few clicks. And I think naputol ba ako?
okay, you're back now. We can hear you. Yeah, there you go. Mark, can you hear us? Okay, that's part of the challenges no of digital work.
That's true.
And yes, of
It's
course,
nothing new.
yeah, it's not new. And this is also really something na very realistic in the community, diba? This happens like when we run events, it's not perfect. Sometimes when you get to the venue, oh, I'm so shocked nobody showed up. It's like that. Like there's a lot of surprises, and that's the beauty of development work, no? We are collected by the vision and the mission, the advocacy itself. We try to do every single thing that we can, but of course, there are things that are outside our control. We'll loop in Mark back as soon as he's back. No, Our tech specialist will actually call him. But Ayana, do you have a question to Jarrah?
Yes, for sure. Si Jarrah parang, oh my God, nasa spotlight na ako. But this one, sige lang,
Wonderful
okay,
show.
okay lang yan. Ito, G&A Podcast with Jarrah. Charot. But, teka lang, I have a specific question. Ito na. So, we know, you went to Indonesia on January of 2019 to attend the Theory U workshop of Vaisili, of course. And we're really curious. Would you mind sharing to us what Theory U is all about?
Theory U is actually a change management method by Otto Scharmer. So it's widely used in the business world. But right now, most individuals who sign up to the program, this change management method is also future forward. Even before the pandemic, their learning materials, their courses are already done online. So they stay true to whatever they promise. They're a change management method nga eh. So actually, Theory U, as I mentioned, is widely used in business. However, it's widely practiced by individuals to properly put yourself, situate yourself in a good place while you work on your advocacy, your business, your spiritual journey, and everything. Because it will ask you to slow down, understand the process, and be your best potential. Actually, doon ako na strike straight bullseye when I heard that line that you could be your best potential. You can lead from the future. Yun nga yung yun yung tagline ni Theory U. You can lead from the future. It's weird at start because sometimes actually I was with Mayfell. They sent us in Jakarta actually. When we were in that program, we thought it was an intervention program. We thought it was just we thought Wisely sponsors all this leadership program. You are sent there to learn about how to run projects, project management. Usually it's like that, right? The tone, the topic is that. But Theory U was more on like understanding yourself as a leader so that you could find your blind spot and be a better leader. Kasi yun yung yun yung gusto niyang
Mm.
correct. Whatever is the condition of your inner self is the condition of your implementation because it will mirror. So it's actually more on what really captures me. Gab knows this. I always talk about this. I talk about this even when during relaxed time. I will talk about Theory U. Kasi hindi lang siya talaga on leadership. It will also talk about ecological. If you're an environmentalist, I believe a lot of those who were in the program understands the status or the flow of theory of the whole U process in ecological perspective. Some will look at it in social divide, yung social naman na explanation, or some will look at it in a spiritual manner. Kasi hindi siya it's a framework of looking at things on how you want to change the existing system. As leaders, feeling ko kasi tayong mga leaders, tayong mga makukulit, we don't like what's happening, right? So we change things. Meron tayong ganun. Meron tayong ganung compulsion. Pero as a leader, we need to look at ourselves on the process, on how we deliver the community from the point A to point B. Because on that process, it also stresses us. So it also creates a divide on our spirit, on our spirituality, on our well-being, on our ecological our environment, ganon. So Theory U tells us to, sabi nga ni Mark kanina, maybe I'll pick up that line in, we need to be intentional on whatever we do because getting from point A to point B as leaders, as makukulit na tao, there's a part of us that we shed off. And as we go along and move away from who we are, actually that's a stress. So we need to from collect ourselves, be solidly you are while you deliver the community. Kasi tayo as a leader, tayo yung nagda-drive, tayo yung magdadala ng change. So nangyayari, nagwe-wear off yon if we are not fully collected as an individual, as a leader. Ayun lang.
Yeah, I love it. Um, alam mo ba, we were like trying to put this episode together. My theory, you. So I have to search and really know more about it prior to asking you too. So parang, wait lang. So pumunta sila doon at parang naging retreat ba yung why silly ano nila in Jakarta. I wish I could have joined. Kasi it stands out from all the why silly activities that you go, around Southeast Asia. So parang, I wish I was there. So super curious ako when Gab mentioned about this, and this is what you have under your belt per se. So ako, parang I'm so excited to learn more about this, and hopefully in the long run I'll also be able to embody it, because I like that you said it's your project implementation is also a reflection of your self development. Parang kung makalat ka in some aspects, or you did not collect yourself well in implementing it, feel ko makalat din yung project mo, because obviously you're the project lead, you manage it, so you're the project manager. So importante talaga na na parang you have to collect yourself and see, or see for yourself first how capable, or how you are in terms of implementing a certain project. Gab, you do you have anything to add on this?
Yeah, well, not a lot about Fury, no, kasi I know I've been hearing a lot about Fury, to be honest, from Jarrah. So I'm only hearing tidbits of ideas. There was a lot of effort to bring Fury in the Philippines. So you can actually see occasionally YCLs doing live streams on Fury. If you want to tap more about how to become a better leader. And of course, I do agree that it's really very important, no, kasi it's a reflection. Our implementation is a reflection of ourselves. You really cannot give something that you do not have. So it's very, very important that before you share, before you need to have a bigger source, a greater source. And I guess that's a little tidbit or a pie of the bigger puzzle of what Yuri U is all about. Now we're talking about mental wellness, mental well-being, and restoring ourselves, which is basically the entire umbrella topic of what unified series for this podcast. I want to ask Mark, since he is coming from a digital entrepreneurship background and he loves leveraging technology in creating inclusive solutions, which he is able to do in his affiliation with Talino Venture Labs. Do you know, or can you give us a few examples of innovations that leverage technology to promote mental well-being and inner self? And have you been involved in any of these technological innovations or efforts?
All right. Yon. Meron na ako. May sound na ba ako? Narinig niyo na ako?
Right. Yes. And welcome
I'm
back.
Thank you. So that's a good question. And I think before we think of any technology na pwede magamit natin, especially in mental wellness, or in any approach to technology, we always need to go back to the basic, especially when it comes to mental wellness, and that's the human component of it. Tayo, no, as a person, and I think before we think of any other technology na pwede natin magamit, yun yung kailangan natin maintindihan. So ano ba yung challenges na na-experience natin when it comes to mental wellness? Ano ba yung gusto nating ma-achieve, no? Ano ba yung ating goal? So magbigay ako ng isang example. Baka isipin natin merong artificial intelligence diyan, may machine learning diyan, di ba? Yung isang example ng technology na I think for me, lalo ngayong pandemic, is very useful. Hindi natin maiisip na ito yung i-share ko is as simple as a countdown timer. So yung built-in na technology sa phone natin, which is a countdown timer. And I think that's very crucial, especially ngayong pandemic, because it allows us to set certain limits. No? So siguro yung iba, inisip nila, yung iba gumagawa ng sa activity nila, yung tinatawag na Pomodoro na approach, di ba? Yung iba set certain limits sa work, or set certain limits sa personal time. Ngayon na halo-halo na sila, 'di ba? No? So parang chop suey na 'yan. I think a simple solution as a countdown timer or your clock is already sufficient para makatulong sa iyo in your mental well-being. If you want to take it a little bit further, meron mga gumawa ng app for Pomodoro approach. For other aspect naman like keeping your focus, no? Yun yung challenge ko ngayon. You're keeping your focus. I'm using one solution. It's called Brain.fm. So they do a creation of and a study around the impact of music, either for you to focus, for you to concentrate, for you to think deeper, or for you to sleep, meditate, and so on. So I'm trying that. There's a lot of approach around it. At the core of it, Gab, on your question kung meron ba akong ma-recommend na technology, I think there's a lot of technologies that we have right now. And I think that's part of the problem or that's part of the challenge for our mental well-being. Right? We have a lot of options. And that's the important component of that, since we have a lot of solutions. Whatever we want, it's out there and it's really accessible. Just one click away. I think it's important to go back to the basic and try to understand ourselves, and then try to understand that, and then try to pick one solution. Yon. Technology, ang i-add ko is absence of technology is a good solution for mental well-being. I'm allocating half of my day, especially on a weekend, without laptop, without YouTube, without Netflix, just sitting there, holding my notebook and pen or book, and then trying to talk to people without being connected online. And I think that's a good contribution to my mental well-being, especially this pandemic.
Right, thank you. Thank you for sharing that, no? And there's a lot of tools and platforms that Mark has shared. Actually, hindi ko nga naisip yung countdown timer, no, na parang something that helps me. Kasi medyo nakakatakot din. When he was talking about the countdown timer, I was thinking about the yung Don't Look Up na
Hindi naman
movie, di
yun.
ba? Lately. Parang, ano ba, pag naubos na yung time, may sasabog ba or what? Pero just playing the devil's advocate, no? And I want to ask Jarrah about this because this is in connection to what Mark said. All of these apps are out there, but what is your stance? Do you think, are you pro technology in terms of mental well-being, or should we cling more to technology to preserve our wellness, our mental well-being, or should we detach more and detoxify ourselves with tech solutions and apps even more, so that we can restore ourselves and our inner selves and mental wellness? What's your take on that, Jarrah?
For me, I like technology, so I am not going to tell people to disconnect in Facebook and block people. They just tolerate it, di ba? It's for me, I like technology. I think kanina ko pang gusto mag-interrupt, mabuti na lang tawagin din ako. What I like most about technology, especially during the pandemic, is actually the use of smartwatch. Diba?
Mhm.
So since we are all confined with a little space, in the first part of the pandemic, February to May, March to May or June of last year, I am just confined in a small apartment. Na literally you won't walk more than 200 steps.
Mhm.
So I mean, you'll realize that even before the pandemic, I am such a very unhealthy person. So, with having the Fitbit on all the time, nag-advertise ba ako? It allows me to uh, it allows me to look into my health, my well-being on the physical na side. Na oh, okay, I really have to move more because I haven't moved since I woke up at 8 a.m. So I think that's a good way to use it's a good way to use the technology.
That's true. I
Yes,
have to
agree with
agree. I
you.
am such a
Yeah.
fan of. I'm such a fan of watches. Like I use the I watch. So parang
Mhm.
even just staying at home, yung the aspect where it says you need to take a breath for 1 minute.
Mhm,
Ay, okay,
mhm,
okay,
mhm.
okay. Or parang,
Yeah.
it's time to stand up. Ay, okay, okay, okay. It
Kinokontrol
has to
tayo ng
be
ating walk.
intentional
Yeah.
again, di ba? Someone has to dictate. Tama, someone has to tell you to
You're being
for
embodied.
accountability. So parang okay, sige. Oo, so parang I love it too. I'm also an advocate of,
Mm,
technology that also has parang an added positive effect. But
yes.
Agree.
let's
And
like circumvent in that aspect. Sige, go. May additional ka pa?
but I
Go
guess
for it.
but I think kasi earlier when Mark was talking about technology, we all thought it's just about social media and our emails and that it doesn't end there. So I'm not going to demonize internet and social media all through that because of course it really helps because
Yeah.
with the technology we could still earn a living, we could still work, and I think it's always just because of we're using it too much.
Mhm.
So even like food, even with everything else, if it's too much, it's bad. So internet should just be used in moderation. It's gonna be fine. It's not at all. I'm not that kind of person who's going to deactivate Facebook because I'm
Mhm.
too stressed and fed up with people. I'm just gonna not look at
Yeah.
Facebook. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's just there. Just don't use it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think just to add to that, just like yung food, 'di ba? Na parang ano na example natin is that sa technology is so accessible right now that we have a lot of choices and a lot of options, and it's basically unlimited, 'di ba? Yung access natin to this technology. It's very helpful, 'di ba? Marami tayong nagawang work ngayong pandemic na we don't think it will be possible without that, 'di ba? And then a lot of lives then nagawa ng impact, and then naging mas madali because of this technologies. Pero tama, it's about moderation lalo na ngayon na everything is so accessible, and I think it's about just choosing, no? Sa social media marami diyang hindi magagandang content, and they are already giving us a way for us to choose kung ano yung gusto natin makita, to properly parang control yung gusto nating i-consume. Same thing with the apps that we're using dun sa phone natin, no? So we have power over it, no? So it's just that technology is a tool for us, and then it should not control us. It's more of us, yun nga yung isinet ko this year, being more intentional kung ano yung ilalagay natin dyan, kung ano yung gagamitin natin, kung ano yung consume natin.
I love
Mm-hmm.
it. Hashtag filter what you want to see, diba?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So let's circumvent that around that topic. Now you've mentioned about technology, and siguro this is one of the last few things that we were gonna talk about. Kasi nga we're in this digital era. I'm really curious because we're talking about self care, the theory you, and looking at your
Mhm.
inner self. How do you find time to meditate or collect yourself, like despite the busy schedule? Do you have any tips to start with? How do you, and aside from disconnecting, not using your social media, what are other things that you usually do to set yourself apart? And like, meditation is a very big aspect, but what other things
Mhm.
do you also have um aside from that, or do you do aside from that? Anyone just want to start?
Okay. Um, okay, I can start. I'm glad that meditation now is no longer just a word for associated with one religion. So
Mhm,
it has
mhm.
evolved through time. Okay, we all agree with that. Because before when we talk about
Sure.
meditation, there it's just the Buddhist way. It's not for
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
everybody. So I'm glad that it has become a more open term. Well, with how do I find time? So actually, what I like most about the pandemic is that we have more time to pray, to
Mhm,
meditate, whatever you call that, to collect ourselves. I'm not happy that the world got sick, but I'm happy that we all have to pace down and strip off things that are not necessary.
mhm,
I think it's just also a good thing that we have to we have realized what are the things that needs to be done face to face and things that can be done in just 15-minute phone call or
Mhm.
Skype call or Zoom call, right? I think that's the beauty of the pandemic. It allows us to slow down and strip off those unnecessary things and have and just saying, can we just do it over Zoom doesn't make you
Mhm.
a lazy person. It makes you just a
Yeah.
resourceful person, right? I believe all of us will agree. Prior the pandemic, we lived our lives in the airport.
Mhm.
That's
Correct,
true.
Gab? I think we spend a lot of time in the
Yes.
airport. I think that's the very beauty of the pandemic. We have more time. And then
Yeah.
like I said earlier, actually started practicing this because I learned. I met a mentor last year. I knew him last year, and he shared about mastering your mornings. So he wakes up at 3 a.m. and I don't know why he just starts
Wow.
working. He has kids, he has a wife, and he manages a lot of business, and there's no other time for him to be collected and be with himself. If I think that's pretty much most religion would mention that having praying in the morning will set an intention for the rest of your day. I think it also reflects. I mean, I think it's also sounds or means the same thing with that person, and that's what I do. I am not a very morning person. We all know that. I think all of us is that, but really, I now wake up at 5 or 6 a.m. every day because that's the only time that I can be with myself. Especially
Wow.
um, if I'm with other people. Like right now, I'm with my family, so there are kids here, so I cannot be with myself. So I have to wake up early and be with myself. Last year, when I had COVID with the rest of my friends, we all live in one house in Manila because we are just supposedly be in transit. I don't have time with myself for myself, and Manila was in lockdown. You are not allowed to go anywhere unless you have this pass. So the only time for me to meditate is to wake up early before anybody does. So and then you can just be with yourself and pray or meditate in whatever that is. I actually include reading a book in my meditation. It's not at all. It's not even about praying and meditating. The book that I've been reading, but I think it's a part of removing ourselves in our natural flow and desensitizing ourselves in our natural process and just be there, be fully collected, and set an intention on how to be your best version for the day. Ayun.
I really want to do that as well because I'm not a morning person.
Same.
Oh,
But
parang gusto
tayo,
kong,
I think.
you're a change person.
Yes. So don't
I'm
fall back
barely going
again.
there. Try ko nga. May ano pa naman, may Lunar New Year pa. Baka pwede pa ako mag-restart in the next month.
And also, parang palagi nating naririnig yung word na ano, no, yung phrase na be collected. So parang
Uh-huh.
I want to imagine how does it take to become a collected person ba? You know, I just like a thought to ponder. About you, Mark.
Yeah, sige. Hindi, may follow-up question ako kay Ate Jarrah. So, 3 a.m. ka na gumigising ngayon?
Hindi naman. Ano
Hindi
lang,
naman,
mga
okay.
6 or 7. Yung dating
Ah,
mga 10 or 11 a.m.
oo
Ngayon ay
nga,
mga
yeah.
ano na, 6 or 7 a.m. na. If I'm fully refreshed, I would wake up at 5 para I
Wow.
can walk kasi mainit 'di ba sa labas. But then
Mm.
I change it to earlier depending on where I am, depending on how early the people wakes up as long as there's no one awake yet.
Mhm. Yeah.
Ate Jara cooked breakfast for me actually when she was here. Yeah, in Manila. It's really
Looking
fun.
forward. So that's a breakfast at 11 a.m.
Oh no, we have 7
Hindi.
a.m. breakfast.
Ay,
Gavin, I think 8 a.m. breakfast. Real breakfast.
It's nice. Sa akin, when it comes to meditation, tama nga in parang at least kung may consolation man lang yung pandemic na to is that we don't have to spend hours in EDSA. And that gives us a lot of time, di ba? Nung nag-start yung pandemic, I already realized na kinilala ko na agad yung sarili ko being gala na laging naglalakad all around Manila when I was in Manila na I will find it hard to stay at home and then focus. So the first step I did is that to look for a guide or a book or a podcast or a YouTube channel that will help me. And then there's this one book that the first book na natapos ko during pandemic is Atomic Habit. And then there's also a recommendation there to start your day kung anong oras mo man yan sisimulan. Pero for you to build a habit around that. So I started building also my morning habit, and that includes preparing coffee, preparing breakfast, di ba? Reading books and doing meditation, no? So over time, sa sobrang haba ng pandemic, nagkaroon ng multiple iterations. May meditation sa morning, nagkaroon ng meditation sa afternoon, merong meditation bago matulog. Pero there's always there na parang naghahanap ka ng way kung saan ba talaga ito mag-fit, no? The good thing is that marami kang time, no? So makakahanap ka at least mga 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So ngayon, ang schedule ko na niyan is morning. So bago ako mag-start ng work, yung last activity ko is a meditation. Hindi ko kaya yung masyado matagal, so it's just 10 minutes. There's a Spotify playlist. I just play it. And then I close my eyes. And then that's my meditation for the day.
Wow, that's great. You know what? I'd love. I'm actually taking down notes on every single thing that you guys were sharing. Um, of course, the Spotify playlists, because it works differently, no, per
Yeah.
person, right? So I guess everybody has different mechanisms in terms of adapting, especially in terms of well-being. Ako naman, I'm having a hard time finishing a book. I know that a lot of people are very obsessed about reading books and things like that. And I mentioned this in a previous episode, no, in episode 2, na I tried bringing a book in Siargao and I wasn't even
Mhm.
able to open a single page. And it's not a joke because that book is actually big. It's like one fourth or like probably an eighth of my entire luggage already. So it's like bringing something that completely did not really turn out to how I imagined it to be.
Yeah.
But it's a very productive conversation, guys, and we really are very happy that you were able to share to us some insights about how to preserve our mental well-being and to also tap on our inner selves and to also learn more about you, Ryu. Learn how to space out and meditate and detoxify. So, just to close this episode, what is your parting message for our viewers? Do you have any tips on preserving, like final tips on preserving our mental well-being that you want to impart, and anything you wanted to share? The closing message. Maybe you can start, Mark.
Ako agad? Yan, nag-iisip pa lang ako eh.
Or yeah.
Hindi, I think for me, yung mabibigay ko lang is that find time na makahanap kayo ng what we call katahimikan, no? Yung mga try to think deeper. Find time to think, and then especially about yourself. Parang kilalanin mo yung sarili mo. That's how you strategize on how to keep yourself sane in this pandemic. And then there's a lot of things that you will try. Tulad nung na-mention ko about the meditation. Most of the time, it will not work. Pero as long as you find time to think and assess, and then try to iterate over time, darating yung time na mahanap mo what's working for you. And then that's how we progress as human. Hanapin lang natin yung sarili natin over time.
Mhm.
Thank you so much, Mark. What about you, Jaya?
For me, is we have to find our substance. It's hard to define that yet. It will take years to fully understand who we are. I think that's the first question, and that's the first step. Because if we don't know exactly who we are and what's our substance, there's nothing that we can share. As we're all here, change makers, there's nothing that we could share if yourself is just a blotch of gooey nonsensible, you don't know what matter. So if you know who you are, it will take some time to meditate to find that. pero it will help you out with your um, mental well-being. So if there are things that's no longer parallel to whoever you are, then it's actually it's stress on the window on your doorstep. So yun lang yung masasabi ko. So be find who you are. Yes. And there's no easy step for that. There's no easy way for that.
Thank you so much. It has been a really meaningful last episode of the Special YC podcast series. And it's again, I said this the first during the opening. It's very timely to welcome the new year, and at the same time to set our pace for 2022. Now, since this is our last episode, we also host a special YC podcast series with a special message. Gab?
As you all know, Typhoon Odette has affected several Filipinos, particularly in the areas of Visayas and Mindanao. And in line with this, we'd like to knock on your kind hearts to help our fellow countrymen who lost their homes and are starting all over again and rebuilding their lives. Let's rebuild our Siargao. So if you wish to donate to victims of Typhoon Odette in Siargao, you may deposit to GCash account 0917-328-1874. Please take a screenshot of your donation and send it as a message in our Facebook page, the G&A Podcast, so that our team can acknowledge your donation. We are accepting donations until January 15. We are in this together.
All right. And then that brings us to the end of this episode. We really thank Jarrah and Mark for their inspiring message on learning and exploring our inner self. I've learned a lot. I did take a lot of notes, and I hope I do have accountability at the end of this year, or even the first quarter of this year. And we hope we also have inspired you through the works of these talented people. As always, thank you for listening to the G&A podcast.
If you enjoy our show, please subscribe to Spotify and Apple Music. Watch out for the release of our podcast episodes for season 1 and subscribe to our channels once we launch the season 2 series.
Again, don't forget, it's the G&A podcast bringing you inspiring life stories of the youth today.
Welcome again to another webinar this Saturday. Thank you for spending your time again with us.
I have a new friend, and at first they were very serious people.
Magandang araw and mabuhay! Cherumon, ayan